Jesus is the best example of a feminist. From 4 years old, like nunhood was my dream, nunhood was my passion. I really depended a lot on God. I would tell Jesus that I want the full score. I got selected to 6 of the 10 colleges that I applied to. The best scholarship I received was from Trinity College in Connecticut. They gave me $60,000, which was a really good opportunity for me. The greatest model of feminism, it's the Blessed Mother. If all women have that realization, so many things would change. As a nun, that's what I would like to focus on too. The how part, I feel like God will help me in the future. My name is Sister Alisa. I'm from Chicago. So I was born in Kerala actually, and I was raised there till I was 5 years old. And when I was in first grade, my parents and we immigrated to the United States, like Chicago, and I studied in Chicago from 1st to 12th. And after 12th, I decided to enter the visitation congregation, and now I'm here. I feel like the best word to describe me as a child is naughty, and I was also really arrogant too. My family consists of my parents, my grandparents, and my 5 siblings. My siblings are all younger than me. I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. I was also kind of over-dramatic too because I lived with my maternal grandparents at India. They treated me very well. They gave me everything I want. They were just awfully very nice to me. Even as a child, I was very attracted to Jesus because my grandparents, they're very pious and devout people. It was through them I learned to pray the rosary. It was through them that I first learned to fall in love with God. My mom would buy me saints books and Bible stories books, and I used to read it with so much thirst and so much craving. It's truly, I really didn't understand most of the parts of the stories, but like reading them, it would make me feel really good, and I really liked Jesus a lot. So I would say prayers, and yeah, and also aside from spiritual matters, I also love to read a lot, like read multiple types of books. So my dad's side of the family, they all decided to move to America for better opportunities, and my dad also pursued his siblings, and we followed my dad's decision. Coming to America, I initially didn't like it. It was initially very hard to learn English at first, and we didn't have a church at America like we did at Kerala. So I didn't have a very spiritual life in America to begin with, or I didn't have like a spiritual point. So I preferred Kerala at the moment as a first grader better, but then as I learned the language and I got used to the culture, I began to like America more, and America became my identity. During school time, I was mostly involved in the drama team. A memorable role that I played was actually the devil. So in the creation scene, I was the serpent, right? The one who tempted Eve, and everyone said I played the role very nice. And it was really memorable too. I actually think negative characters match me more than the protagonist character. Not because I am very antagonistic, but it just matches me. I like acting the negative role more than the positive role. I was very spiritual or religious to the point that I would get jealous of people who were more spiritual or more religious, appeared to be more religious than me. There was this one friend who would come to church because her parents were very religious, and I never told her this, but I've always felt a secret jealous towards her. Like I was scared that she would be a nun. I've always wanted to be a nun. From 4 years old, like nunhood was my dream. Nunhood was my passion. When I was in India, my nursery school was at St. Kuriakose Public School, and it was run by St. Joseph Sisters. And the sisters there, seeing their white habits, it was a really big inspiration for me. They were called the brides of Jesus, and seeing them used to really inspire me and created me so much awe that I wanted to be like them. There are points in teenage times where you do feel a little attraction towards, someone, but when I would always compare him with Jesus, I would always arrive at the conclusion that Jesus is the best person you can marry. So I just loved him. Before every exams, I would tell Jesus that I want the full score, and I would write Bible verses on the top of my exam papers, and in every assignments that I did, I would draw a cross sign because I really depended a lot on God. So I only did homework till after school till around 6. And after that, my time was at church and praying. So 9th grade, I got into the Schuler Scholar Program. It's a preparatory program for high school students who are entering college. And this program gave me a lot of opportunities to visit very many colleges around the United States. This also helped me get rid of my homesickness, and it was a fantastic opportunity for me to travel all around the United States for free. At 12th grade, through this program, you're allowed to apply to liberal arts schools and selective schools, and they pay for the application fee. They cover everything. So I applied to 10 colleges through this program, and I got selected to 6 of the 10 colleges that I applied to. And they gave me really good scholarship too. The best scholarship I received was from Trinity College in Connecticut. So they gave me $60,000, which was a really good opportunity for me. I had a false belief that you can be a nun and at the same time go to college, but I realized that that's something that's not possible. Trinity, it's an opportunity that's very rare. And if I reject this opportunity now, I'll probably never get an opportunity like this in my life ever again. This was a very shocking moment for me, but at the same time, I knew deep in my heart that it was really God who gave me this scholarship, so I can prove to the world that God is better, or God is more than any scholarships or anything the world has to offer me.
Welcome, Holy Spirit. We are in your presence. Fill us with your power. Live inside of me.
In Mary's life, when she said yes to God, when she said, "Let it be done to me according to thy word," there were a lot of pressure in her. Like society would view her in a terrible way. She might even have to face being stoned to death. But she still said yes because she trusted in God. My greatest fear was, if nunhood fails, if I'm only able to stay for 2 years, and if I have to drop back, how would society still view me? Like, what would the options I have be? Like, those things caused a lot of fear in me. But when you leave those things up to God, and when you sacrifice those anxieties and fears, say that yes, God will take care of you. When I was originally planning to either enter like a missionary congregation or a cloistered congregation, which are two dimensions of religious life. And at the moment, visitation congregation really struck me because its charism is related to feminism, like women empowerment. And at that moment, I was like a daring feminist. I was like women power, girl power, all that. I had that ideology. So I was like, maybe this is the congregation for me. But I was very anxious inside and uneasy because like this required me to come to India. We have 3 visitation convents in the United States, but the formation of these 3 convents, it's at India. And India is a place I at the time dreaded a lot. I didn't think I would be able to adjust to the food because I've been told that you had to eat kanyi, that's rice with water in it and with a lot of curries. At noon, you're served chora, which is rice with curries, right? And those are food that I don't like. And there's something called tapioca and like other type of potatoes. And those things, the food, it was really uncomfortable for me. And also like the bathroom. Like the bathrooms were something very hard to adjust to. And also cultural difference. Usually, like the Indian community sees and grasps things differently than Americans do, typically. But my community, my congregation stood by me and they encouraged me as I took the steps to overcome. Like starting aspirancy, I had a hard time reading Malayalam and like reading the Bible in Malayalam. So I had to stay apart from a lot of things that went on. But my congregation supported me and they gave me the chance to learn the language better. And right now, I'm very fluent in reading and writing Malayalam. And in India, there are chores that I had to do, which typically at America, I wouldn't have to do. But even in those moments, my batchmates would encourage me to learn these stuff. When I make a mistake, they were very supportive and they would rebuke me, but in a very gentle manner and make me recognize the mistakes that I have to correct. For those of you who say religious life is boring, my response is, I feel like if you're a boring person, then if you enter religious life, priesthood or family life, it'll be boring for you. But if you're a person that wakes up each day and thinks how they can make their day interesting, then religious life would be the most exciting and interesting state of life you can be in. And that's true with any life. It depends on what type of person you are for life to be interesting or boring. Even if you are a cloistered nun, your life will be very interesting if you wake up with the attitude, oh, God has something new for me, I gotta find it. It'll be a variety each day. I was in the Schuller Scholar program. I met this person who encouraged me and taught me about feminism and women empowerment. And at that time, there were so many violence going against women. And I started to become aware of that. Right now, women need to be empowered spiritually, in my opinion. I feel like in the matter of equality, yeah, we need to be treated more equally. And I feel like people are fighting more. We've reached a long way, like voting rights, equal pay. We have achieved a lot, but I feel like spiritual empowerment for women, it's kind of lagging nowadays. I feel like the greatest model of feminism, it's the Blessed Mother. No one acknowledges that. Like, think about it. At an age where single mothers are stoned, she was willing to be a single mother for God. At a time where widows were considered the most unfortunate, she is the blessed. She lost her son, she lost her husband, and she was all alone in this world. And she proved to the world that she can live, that a woman can live. And she is the queen of apostles, the queen of patriarchs, the queen of the whole world. She is the feminist, and she is the model for all women to follow. She is a fire that burns for the love of God. And that, in my opinion, is what women should imitate nowadays. They should burn with the love of God, because I feel like women is the meeting point of divinity. It's where God meets man. If we realize that, and if all women have that realization, I feel like so many things would change. And this self-confidence and this love towards womanhood, I feel like that will change society more than going out and rallying. Like, those things, yeah, do help, but more than that, if each woman have the self-confidence that she is meant to show divinity to the world, then so many things would change. I feel like Jesus is the best example of a feminist. When the woman with the bleeding disorder, she had the courage to touch Jesus. He asked her to step and reveal her identity is because he wanted her to be empowered. By telling her to reveal her identity, Jesus is telling the world that people like her have a voice in society, that they deserve to be known too. And Jesus consoles her. True healing happened when Jesus asked her to reveal herself to the world. At that time, if a woman touches a man, especially a woman with impurity touches a man, the man is also unclean. But Jesus had no problem making himself unclean for her. It was the women disciples that stood at the foot of the cross and stood in support of Jesus. It was the women disciples that missed Jesus and went to the tomb to look for him. And it was to women that Jesus first appeared. So that's probably why Mary Magdalene is called the apostle of the apostles. And as a nun, as a visitation nun, like our charism, it's to empower women. We used to do that through education at a time where women weren't educated. But spiritual-wise, we need more work. We need to work more on that, like building up moral values, building up family. That's what we as a congregation focus on. And as a nun, perhaps that's what I would like to focus on too. And that can also be done living as a strong woman and show, like, being that model in my life, like Blessed Virgin Mary, and also by prayer, and also by going out and helping others. And the how part, I feel like God will help me in the future. In my life, something that helps me as a nun stay close to God, it's personal prayer for sure. The secret to success in nunhood is your love towards Jesus, which is developed through personal prayer. When you undergo personal stuff, that urge in you to find someone to open up, and that someone is Jesus. It does give you an assurance that Jesus is there, and Jesus knows, and Jesus is watching you. A friendship with Jesus that no one can replace. Participating in Holy Mass right now, I feel like I still don't understand its beauty to its completion, and I don't think I will ever. But there's a Bible verse that every morning God's love is new. And I feel like one way He depicts this new love is through the Holy Mass. The greatest message Holy Mass gives us is that if Jesus can become bread for us, we also have to be bread for others. I feel like when a person is in love, that person is literally blind. They don't see anything. And the best way to show that you truly love someone, it's by sacrifices. The more the sacrifice you make for Jesus, it's your way of saying that you love him more. And for me, leaving America and leaving my family, when I think about it, it wasn't that hard because Jesus gave me that courage. And I feel like it was more of a sacrifice for Jesus to receive me as his bride than me making the sacrifice. I feel like nunhood is the greatest gift that God has offered me. For those of you who are discerning or are confused about what path to take, my greatest advice is that you stay close to the Holy Spirit and seek advice from him constantly. And also, it may sometimes seem very hard to say yes to God, but if you have attraction towards a particular state of life, especially at a time where no one follows that state of life, it's probably a sign that you have the call. And maybe you should take that courageous step to say yes. You have nothing to lose. Saying yes is a sign that you love Jesus and are willing to sacrifice for him. And our God is so great and so loving that if you take that one little step towards him, he'll take 100 steps or maybe even 1,000 towards you.
My life is a miracle. Every child has a story of God's love to share. Shalom world, tune into God's love story.